This is a test of the City of Palatka audio system.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to City Commission budget workshop on August 29th, 2024 at 3:30 p.m. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Ms. Krantz, could you read the notice, please?
Certainly. To Commissioners Tammy McCaskill, Justin Campbell, Will Jones, and Rufus Borum, you're hereby notified a special called workshop of the Palatka City Commission is hereby called to be held on the following dates at City Hall, 201 North 2nd Street, Palatka, Florida 32177. The purpose of the workshop is to discuss the fiscal year 2024-25 budget. August 29th, City Commission budget workshop at 3:30 is included in the list. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Signed, Roberta M. Cray, Mayor.
Thank you. Pastor Mulberry will start the invocation, and Mr. Bell, can you please do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Good evening, everyone. Father, we thank you once again for the opportunity to be in another meeting. Pray, God, that you will grant wisdom to make decisions that are sound, to move forward in this city. We pray, God, that you will continue to bless this city, Putnam County, and all of the constituents. We ask, God, for your help in all that we undergird to do for your glory. Pray your blessing upon each and every person now. It is in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Ms. Krantz.
Commissioner Tammy McCaskill. Not present for the record. Commissioner Justin Campbell.
Present.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Will Jones. Not present for the record. Commissioner Rufus Borum. Not present for the record. Mayor Robbie Cray.
Present.
Mayor Cray, of course, this is a workshop and you don't need a quorum, but I just want to note that you do not have a quorum.
Very obviously, yes. I'm going to open the floor to public comments. Is there anybody here for public comments? Seeing none, close public comments. Discussion, FY 2024-25 budget, fifth draft of the budget for 2024-25. Ms. Cotty or Mr. Bell?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask that Ms. Carty walk us through the presentation of this balanced budget. Thank you. Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sorry, Mayor, Commissioners, those in attendance, City Manager, Attorney. Okay, so today I just wanted to say that the Commissioners approved a budget calendar, and it included like 5 budget workshops, and this is our 5th workshop. The budget is now balanced, and so hopefully I'll go over it with us today. And if we were to compare to last year's approved budget originally, it's a difference of about 4.5 million. However, if we were to approve it to where we are today, without amended a budget with all of the various grants and so forth, we're only a variance of $413 compared to right now today. The balanced budget did require reflecting financing. So we are showing a possible debt of $1 million in order to maintain this balanced budget with annual debt service of $133,000. Our fire assessment rate, also the revenue is being reduced. Instead of the fire assessment rate being at the 2.46, is reflected at the revenue generated is $2.35 for the variable tier. So there's a reduction of 11 cents. So those are the highlights that allowed us to actually have a balanced budget. The balanced budget number is $75,845,765. So we've worked a lot since August 9th when we were last here. If I was to go over the breakout of that 75,845, 28 million. Did I say 75 million, 845, 765? Okay, good.
Yes.
So 28,600,000 is operating costs. Personnel is 16 million. And the grants portion of that 75 million is 19 million. And the capital part is 11 million, or almost 16%. In our packet, I gave us a document that emphasized some of the budget highlights. We could say the major aspects of getting ourselves or coming to a balanced number, arriving at a balanced number. Some of the highlights is liability insurance increased for this year. Our interfund transfers increased by about 300,000. The loan proceeds in general fund, we had to increase by about 300,000. And this year we have the planning comprehensive study, which is also, it's a grant of 75,000. Police department personnel costs increased. However, almost 200,000 was grant funded. Our public works, streets, capital costs increased by about 700,000, but then that's including paving renovations of 885,000. So I think that's given us a snapshot. And if you'd like, Sunny, I can go into the actual document, please. And that would be the budgeted expense document. Yes, thank you. So what I did initially is just mention some of the major changes compared to prior year, or highlights for this year. So starting on page 1, this is the commissioners. Not too much deviation. If I had to look at anything that's new or interesting, it would be the special events and special projects. And that, again, like last year, that's including the amount that we expect to not be spent this year, plus that 10,000. Going to page 3 of this document, that would be City Hall. Okay. And what's of interest here would be that this year we're reflecting City Hall and Annex Hall building maintenance in 2 separate lines. But additionally, we're recognizing that we expect to do renovations for both the City Hall and Annex. On page 4, we're looking at city manager. Mainly, we're reflecting the salaries of 3 persons in that amount. That's city manager, assistant city manager, and also our PI person, public information. We can move on to page 5. There's nothing too much other than in regular salaries, we are reflecting a new position there in regular salaries, which is the 81,000 is for 2 positions, not 1. If we can move to page 7, and we're looking at information technology. It's not too much of a variance. Last year, it was 357,000. This year is 369,000. And that's just nothing major other than cost of expenditures increasing. Finance budget actually went down some compared to last year. If we can turn to page number 9, which is, we're looking at Public Works, Facilities Maintenance. Again, there's not too much of a variance. And on page number 10, you can see it's only a 12,000 increase, but capital outlay for facilities maintenance, the 45,000 is there. And we are reflecting the reimbursement for fleet maintenance. We started that last year. Human resources, no major change. Well, except on page 11, if you could turn to page 11. Human resources capital outlay. That's for, they're asking for that new software. And between the installation for the first year and the annual is 44,500. But annually, it would not be that amount. It would be less. Moving on to page, well, everything is pretty nothing major so far until we get to page 14. So we've kind of breezed over legal and we're at page 14 should be other governmental. Let me see. Okay.
Human resources.
Oh,
water
someone had a
policy,
question?
Community affairs.
My page 14. had
It's my page. Well,
what is it?
I see what it's doing.
Okay, so if you could go to page 14. Right, so page 14 is other government services. And the big difference is two things. We've had an increase with workers' comp and also liability insurance. And you can just see last year it was 139,000. This year's projected to be 201. And that's me taking the proposals that they sent in for the year that's coming. Page 15. We can look at the Blue Crab. Last year we budgeted 52,000. This year we're budgeting 75. Also on page 15 of interest is the DEO Strategic Revitalization Grant. And that also means there's actually a grant for this amount, for this 40,000, just as it was for the 75,000 for the comprehensive study over in the planning division. So even though the cost went up for other governmental, but we do have at least a part of it being grant funded. Okay, we can turn to, yes. Where is it placed? Right, as far as I know, what page is that? Page 17. I don't know if a grant for that one, last time it was budgeted was 2023. So it was not budgeted for the year we're currently living in, and it is not budgeted for next year either. However, if we do secure funding, that's why we have the process of budget amendment. Okay. Community affairs, since we are on page 17. And I think I did mention about the 75,000, that is, we also have a grant awarded for that. The community planning and planning department. Community affairs recreation, we are reflecting new positions there. And I'll go back over the proposed new positions after I finish this. That's pretty much that part of it. On page 18, we did have to, in order to balance the budget, one of the things that we had to do is not have such, we reduced the capital outlay. So it's down to 64,000, but at least there is an amount there in recreation. And going to the police department. There is a new position that's being advocated for executive salaries, but it didn't affect it too greatly. As you can see, 421, 420. There is a position over in clerical, again, didn't affect it too much. With page 20, which is still, I believe, the police department, our capital, we were able to hold on to 110. They did request 147. No. On page 21, there is a capital grant for cars, police cars, 250,000 USDA grant. And our interest in debt, the debt that's their principal and interest is based upon the agreements and the amortization schedules that we have so far. Code enforcement on page 22. I'm trying to see what was the major. Well, we increased that line, 5120 abatement. Well, no, actually we split it. We spread monies in other areas, filings and miscellaneous legal fees. We put an amount there, 13. Prior year it was only 1,200. And finally, fire department on page 23. And I need to correct something. With the police department, we did not have an increase in executive salaries, okay? The increase is over in regular salaries. However, those 4 positions are grant funded primarily. There's a small portion that the city puts in of about 64,000. 25% of the cost, projected costs. So fire department, that's the one where the executive salary is from 191 to 317, which one position. Also with clerical, the 36 to the 76, an administrative position is being requested. It's been reduced from the 80,000 to the 65,000. Also, it's no longer a deputy chief. Instead, it's a training officer, something like that. Yes, sir. Yep. Okay. So looking at the fire department, it's pretty comparative. It's comparative to last year's budget. On page 24, the capital outlay, we were able to keep in 205,000. They did request 368,000. Okay. Page 25. We're on Public Works. There are some positions that are being requested in regular salaries. And in the packet, there's that handout of proposed new positions and also the decision units. Page 26. Okay, this is still the streets department. And we just mainly tried to keep it close to last year. However, there were small incrementals. And the biggest one was this, we wanted to make sure that traffic light repair, which is government funded, I want to be certain that I put in the full cost there. That's 76,242. Also paving road repairs, 5330 is in there, and also sidewalk repairs are in there as well. And the streets, on page 27 though, is the biggest change in this particular department or unit costs. And that's on page 27 where you have paving road renovations. And that's at 885,525. And that's been placed, that's there in the budget. Also the 45,000 for just general capital outlay. And so for public works, streets, there's an attempt to really focus in on repairing the streets. Last year budget was 1.5 million, this year's 2.4. The cemetery, no major changes on page 28. Cultural arts at the bottom of page 28 is showing that there's, I believe, a part-timer being requested and regular salaries. And on page 29, I believe it was ground maintenance. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. Let me look here. Yeah. So there is an increase in line item 4910 on page 29, special events for the St. John River Center. Okay. On page 30, we're looking at parks and recs. So literally the salary budget decrease compared to last year went from 178 to 167. That's because we're tying specifically, directly job personnel into the budget to that salary study. So it's a much more accurate number. Other than that, the biggest change is on page 31 for this particular department, which is Parks and Recreation. And that would be the maintenance for the riverfront. So, we've gone up from the 50 to the 73,000. And also all of the maintenance went from 6,000 to 10. I think this, from the explanation that the department head gave, was directly tied to having the staff on board to now maintain the properties, so more uniformly. Okay. On page 32, significant increase here in this same department, Parks and Recreation. Last year budget was 169,000. This year, 562,000. That is including the splash pad. And also definitely improving the park. I think some of the items they were trying to improve was the equipment. I think also included in this is the dog stations. I think about 30 dog stations. So that's some of the reasons why the budget has gone from 169 to 562. Yes, throughout the city, about 30 different stations is what we budgeted at least. Oh. I don't know. All righty there.
Got you excited. huh?
Okay, so Price Martin on page 33. There is a desire to improve there. That's why that 30,000 is there for Price Martin. My memory is that it was primarily related to audio and visual improvements. It's important to note that you can see that the city is improving, honestly, because when you look at transfers, the fact that general fund transfers decreased in the approved budget from last year, it was 991,000 at the bottom of page 33. And this year, general fund do not have to transfer that much, only 509,000. And that lets you know that things are coming together. Better Place had a lower amount of transfer. Gulf Fund required a lower amount. And airport, we kept it level. Airport last year experienced a different year. So this is the year that they expect to operate full capacity. No change with the reserves.
And just to point out with the airport, it stayed flat even though their tanks were down for a good portion of the year.
Yeah, it's amazing that they were able to keep it going like that without having basic equipment almost. We're now on page 35, which is actually airport. Didn't mean to do that. Okay, airport, here we go. Again, on page 35, you know, the salary part is kind of level and just reflecting, again, the step salary study. However, note that liability insurance went up from 67,000 to 84,000. So that's throughout the entire theme of the budget. And other than that, most of the items are pretty level. There are the grants, the capital, you know, if we go to capital outlay, this is primarily, it's a combination with capital outlay of one FTO West taxi lanes. That's like a grant, but only 15,000 left. And then there's $9,000 there for capital improvements. The grants this year is reduced. Last year was 2.6 million on page 37, and this year is 1.955. The airport was successful in paying off a debt that they had had for some time. And now, as a result, they're focusing on other debt, one of which is general fund. So this year, they're budgeted to pay towards whatever debt they have with general fund, 50,000. So again, that's showing that airport. Okay. Going to page 38. This is the final portion of airport. The amount that they're paying towards general fund for administrative services is a small increase of it's from 164 to 177. That's your report. So now we go to Public Works on page 39. And again, the salaries, I'm tying it. I will make an effort to review. I'm going to review again with human resources. I just want to be sure of something. I just see something that last year regular salaries was 380,000. I just picked that up just now. That has gone down to 279,000. I want to follow up and make sure that that's accurate. A little bit concerned about that. But I do know that we checked it a couple of times to be certain that the salaries are tying in by individual and position to the salary study. So it's probably accurate, but I still want to review it. This is Public Works. They reduced the amount for professional services from 119,000 to 62,000. And on page 40, if you would. Okay. Now here's where there's the big increase is chemicals and fertilizers, and they can explain it better than me, but basically they were explaining how their activity was going to increase significantly this year. And so this amount was doubled from 125,000 to 250,000. Their capital outlay is primarily based upon a grant of 1.3 mil. And then general improvement would be the wells update and various other improvements that should not exceed 500,000. So, but when you look at the total department budget, last year was 3,017,000. This year is 3,293,000. So the biggest component of that increase is the 125,000 for chemicals and fertilizers, and then the fact that grants increased by almost 300,000. So it's justifiable in a sense. Public Works, sewer, oh, wrong word, reclamation facility. Sorry, reclamation, okay. So the salaries is just following the salary study. The prior year budget to this year for operating expenses, if you go to page 42, you will see that last year the budget was 721,000. This year is 769,000. But generally speaking, the increase is like a 4%. It's nothing too significant. And capital outlay, it decreased from 3.8 million to 4.2 million. And this is because we have different grants, like that DEO lift station, 16 expansion. We expect to complete that 1.7 mil. And then we have that WWTB biosolids, it's 1.3. Last year, that was 2.9. And capital improvements, the person that is taking this over are attacking major improvements for this particular department. I think one item alone was like 350,000. So, but there's about 10 different items that are being improved with that 1,159,000. And when you go to page 43, you can see that the total budget compared to last year is an increase of about 402,000. Yet this year, we are improving the capital for that department up by 1 million. The distribution for water sewer, no real change with personnel or operating. Capital outlay on page 45. It has changed significantly. Last year was 3.4 mil. This year it's only 1.8 mil. And our biggest change really are this there was a grant that we had in Palatka Heights. It's funded by the state. And so this year it's only 593,000. Okay. We have other grants. Last year under the grant, we had 8.3 million. This year we have 5.9. And again, this is grants. And the numbers that are being placed in the budget is what the operator, manager, city manager, or grant manager, or director is what they are expecting to complete in the coming fiscal year. So on page 45, there's a big difference between the budget for last year and this year. Like it was last year was 13 mil. This year it's 9 mil. So it could be that we're trying in the budgeting process to better predict what we think we're going to complete in the coming year. On page 46, we're looking at water administration. The major change would be the liability insurance. Went from 249,000 to 346,000. On page 48, looking at transfers. So last year, the transfers was 2.9 million. This year it's 3.1 mil. So that's an increase of about 240,000. The contingency reserve is kind of static. So overall, for the utility department, last year the budget was 28,736,000. This year is 26,009,000. Going on to the golf course. The operational expenses is didn't change too much. However, we're looking at operating. And the operating was reduced some by about 11,000. Debt service, it's nothing now. So just a small change of about 9,000 for Gulf Fund on page 51. Fleet maintenance, page 52. I believe there was a position requested. So regular salaries went from 100,000 plus with the step to 143,000. There's an increase with building maintenance from 3,500 to 10,000. So the increase from last year to this year is almost 100,000, about 80,000, 85,000. And mainly that's with the position and the step and the building maintenance. And sanitation on page 53. No major change in personnel. However, in operating expenses, liability insurance again went from 70,000 to 91,000. Rental, from 4,000 to 26,000. That's the biggest increment of the entire operating expenses, primarily liability, rental, and lease. Debt, no. Okay. One thing that sanitation did this year, they were able to, so last year we had 499,000 for vehicle purchase and capital outlay, but this year, and they did secure their vehicle purchases during the year we're currently living in. This year, they're, I forgot what this was for, the 85,000 and the 15,000. But they really explained it when they did their presentation. So it's 100,000 there. That's what they expect to spend this year, not 500 or 700,000. Okay. Sanitation, the transfers on page 56. there is an increase of about 60,000, and that's for franchise transfer and the administrative costs. And finally, we're on TIF, which has already been approved and so forth in the CRA meeting, so I can skip that.
Let's go back to the 15 and 85.
Yes, sir,
First
remember.
sanitation.
Uh-huh.
That was the procurement of a vehicle that would, and surplusing another vehicle, a vehicle that would allow us to go out and service the vehicles on the road with,
Remember now. Yes, sir.
tow them back to the city.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and the CRA budget, it's already been approved in their meetings, so it's okay if we move forward. Okay, and so therefore we can skip over to page 63. Mayor, are you okay that we skipped CRA? Want me to go back?
Is your microphone on, Madam Mayor?
Commissioner Campbell? Do you have any questions about the CRA budget? I was going to mention the 75,000 is still listed there.
Well, oh, you mean, oh, but I did correct it on their independent,
Mhm. We did
but let me
take-
correct it here as well.
Okay.
Take out the
because-
50.
Wait, hold on, where was that? Mm,
So the 25,000.
What page is that on?
Business Development Center, but then there's.
Oh, yeah,
there's
yes, I
75.
corrected that.
Yes.
Mhm. Let me just put a note that the way how I corrected it on their CRA budget, that I corrected here as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
That was my question.
Thank you.
Commissioner Campbell, do you have any questions about the CRA budget?
No, ma'am, I don't. With that correction, I'm fine.
He said he was fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, let me just keep moving. So, but as a personal note, I'll go back and really compare the CRA component of the total budget to the actual individual CRA budget, just to be sure. And so we're moving on to page 63, ARPA fund. And now that we're living in the last month of the year, we have a better number. Last time this was at 1.3 mil. But now we know that we're going to be, next year, we should have about 1,546,000. And that's because we rolled in the 490,000 for the affordable housing project, and everything else is pretty much was already there. And so what's unencumbered, in our opinion, meaning that we have not issued POs or anything like that, I would say would be that 1.5. We have to make sure, I think, pretty soon that we get that done.
Okay,
Mhm. On page 65, going to a better place. So I would say, like, for instance, looking at Public Works building, last year it was 3 million, but we did actually secure the building, and we do have the remaining amount of 1,398,000 on page 65. Also on page 65, there's more funds here for roads and resurfacing and striping, and that's 1,400,000. The city share, oh, yeah, right. City share downtown streetscape, 909,000, but we did also that FPL Reed Street, medium one bridge to State Road 19. We did include the 570,000 there. And so the total, most of this, pretty much all of this, 90% of this particular fund is grant funded. There are some city match, but most of it is grant funded. If you go to page 67, you can see that the total department is 14,946,000. Last year it was 12 million. But we do have more grants. Things like the federal raise grant, last year was 300,000, this year 1,500,000. So, and that is it. On page 68, you're able to see that our budget is 75,845,765. And that's for the expenditures. If I can move on to budget, any questions? I'm just quickly, 1 minute, do the revenues, just one whole minute. If you can go to revenues, right at page 1. Thank you. All right, all we gotta do is look for fifth draft. Okay, so this is the expected or budgeted revenues, and it's based upon information is gathered from the state of Florida, from the property appraiser. Most of the utility tax is following the guidance of the state, 2.5 multiplier of utility revenues. Impact fees is relatively new. That was not in there to that degree as it is now on page 1. As you can see, 88,000, 151,000, 185,000, 319,000. Those are the budgeted or projected impact fees that we expect to receive in general fund. The fire assessment, this number that is currently there, the 2,048,000 has been reduced by 73,000 because of reducing the rate from that 2.46 to 2.35. And then we have grants in here such as the USDA, the COPS grant, which funds the salaries. Okay. The DEO grant, the DEO strategic grant. Okay. I think I can stop there
Okay. I didn't know
unless,
if there are any questions by, oh, go ahead, Mr. Bill. I'm
I
sorry.
just want to quickly note, the city attorney pointed out correctly that we no longer have the Department of Economic Opportunity, it's Department of
oh, we
Commerce.
gotta change the
It is
wording.
Department of Commerce.
And what's that new
I knew
word
that.
now?
Department of Commerce. It's actually easier to remember.
Okay,
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
thank
Not-
you.
Not to be confused with Department of Corrections.
Correct.
Right,
Yes, well.
okay, Department of Commerce. All right, so if there's, the most important thing, this gives us the detail of all of the revenues, and if you go to page 5, you'll see that is the exact same number as our expenses, it's 75,845,765. So we do have a balanced budget. The budget still can be impacted by any changes or so forth that the commissioners would like to communicate to city manager. But we still have that moment. Okay, yes? Sure. Mm-hmm. So we need to take that out. Is it there? I didn't think it was. Show me. Florida. Oh, okay, see it right here.
We need that in there or not?
We keep it there because the reason why it's on there because there was actual activity in this current year. I think it was $3,000. Okay. The legal liens.
Tax sales surpluses.
Okay, why don't you let me follow up on that because, and then let's communicate and let me see if that would help with the revenue stream. First of all, what I would do is understand where they currently booking that.
Historically, have not had them, so it's a new revenue source.
Okay. Have we received any money at all this year from that source? Okay, I'll find out where we're booking it and then I'll tell you where it is in here. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Campbell, do you have any questions?
I do not, Mayor, thank you.
No, okay. I have a couple. The reduction in the fire assessment fee. I don't honestly recall. We did approve a resolution for previously, and I thought in that resolution, we approved the the current rate, I should say, 2.46.
Yes.
When did we reduce that, or how did we reduce that when we approved a resolution already?
So it's my understanding that we approved up to that amount, but that we had the opportunity to go lower, but not higher. And so if you approved this budget, we would go lower. But if it was the pleasure of the commission to go back to the higher number, then we can do that as well.
Okay, and I guess obviously, we don't have enough people here to discuss it, but we do need
Sure.
to discuss that. It is a substantial loss of revenue. And it's, once you cut, it's hard to go back up again. It's just,
Right.
anyway, I think we need to discuss that. That's all I'm saying on that. I also don't remember, I remember just a lengthy discussion about how much funding to allocate the Blue Crab or not, but I don't remember the 75,000 as being a
Well-
decision made. Was that just a number to insert, a placeholder? How did we get to that number?
So based on the negotiations that we've had thus far with the event promoter, her original request was 150. And so we were able to come to an agreement in the neighborhood of 75. So we wanted to make sure that that was reflected in here.
So that's another point we need to discuss.
Yes.
Okay. And the same with the splash pad. I have no problem with the concept, but we're just, again, we need further discussion
Right.
on that. Okay.
And actually, the agreement, I'm sorry to go back with regard to the Blue Crab Festival will be on the agenda for the September 12th.
Okay. Those were basically my questions for clarification.
Okay. If there are no more questions, I sit down.
Did you?
No, I was gonna offer that, again, it's not, we didn't have public comment per se, but if you would like to come up, do you have any specific questions, Mr. Ocean? If you do, please come up to the podium. Okay.
Cheryl Roach, 312 Dodge. On the cemeteries, if there is any surplus, definitely need to clean up the cemeteries. I thought I saw 20,000 surplus. And I know that at the last year's budget meetings, Public Works definitely requested more money for cemeteries and they were just turned down. So that's the final resting place. There should be much more respect for that. I didn't see anything for the bike trail. I thought we were a trail town. And is that customary to have like no upgrades or maintenance for the bike
There's a
trail?
slight amount for maintenance on there. There's also, which we need to look into, and I think the window for application is closed. But DEP has a new grant specifically tailored to funding for trail maintenance. I'll get that information. It might be trail, but I'll get that information to you. I
Okay.
think we need to look into it for the next cycle because it is a need.
It is a
Sure.
great need. Yeah,
It
it is a great need. Yeah. And I'm not talking about on Main Street, putting in a new bike trail when there's already one there. I'm talking about more when you get down to Price Martin and you make that
Right,
turn.
and then the maintenance of
And
that
yes,
area
yes,
that's already in
yes.
existence. We're not talking about new yet. which
Yeah,
would be
yeah,
nice too,
yeah.
But at this point, we're talking about maintaining what we have.
Yeah. And
So,
the,
yeah. I'll
yeah,
get that
okay.
to
And the other thing is the animal control, nothing again. And I don't know what happened with the spay neuter. I know that everybody thinks it's the county's responsibility, but we have such a huge problem in this town for both
We-
dogs and cats.
We did, when the ladies from ARC came here, we did agree to give them funding. Did we include that in the budget? Because I didn't notice it either.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was funding that was coming out of ARPA for
Yep.
that. But it was contingent on them coming through with the trailer that we were supporting. And I believe they weren't able to acquire the trailer, so that money still sits where it was originally.
And I think was that because the county was not funding a portion of it? Why did that happen? I'm asking, trying to. Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I do remember that, reading that.
So just nobody is doing anything basically about it.
We have the money
Right.
sitting there, but at this
Uh-huh.
point, we're waiting for them to take the lead is really, it.
Yes.
But what, yeah, I understand, I'm frustrated as you are, as I think everybody in this city is, we are.
Okay.
Inundated with cats, dogs, et
Okay.
cetera.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And lastly, and this is just a comment, not a question. I know that, last year, both the police and the fire department, and I think maybe even Public Works, did ask for admin and it was all turned down. I do hope, I know there's nobody really here, but, I do hope that it is considered admin for those departments are paramount in my mind. They need that support,
Mhm.
especially the fire and the police and the Public Works, of course.
And sure, go ahead and come up.
Yeah.
But I was going to say that 95% of what was requested in the decision packets from the police and fire department.
It was approved.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's in this
The
document.
budget.
Well,
The
it's
budget
not
was
approved yet.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. So it could all be axed, and that's my point, because I know that's what happened last year. They just
Right.
simply axed it. So I'm just saying as, a Palatka citizen, a constituent, that, admins for those departments are very important, and I hope it's considered and passed on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other input, questions, any other information? Commissioner Campbell, do you want to make a motion to adjourn? Since I have nobody else.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.